it's not coincidence, right? This is chemistry. Gratitude releases oxytocin, actually, which is a bonding hormone, and it literally deepens trust and connection, right? This is well researched. So if you want better relationships, you want more intimacy, gratitude is the key. What's up, guys? This is Dr. Ryan Hewitt coming to you live from the Weaponized Body podcast. And as always, I'm coming to you with an episode on the topics of metabolic, movement, and mindset. Today, I wanted to do a mindset episode. And I wanted to talk about the topic of gratitude. Because what I'm always thinking of are things that have really been game changers for my life when it comes to my performance, my health, my recovery, my quality of life. And I can honestly say that one of the things that has made the largest impact in my adult life has been the practice of gratitude. I personally believe it's one of the most overlooked performance enhancers. And so today I want to talk about something that a lot of people treat sort of like an Instagram quote, or only something they think about on holidays like Thanksgiving. But honestly, gratitude is one of the most powerful tools you can use to weaponize your life. And here's part of the issue is that I think we treat gratitude like a noun. In other words, it's a thing that exists or something that you say that you have. But if you're not using gratitude as a verb, then what you're doing is you're lying to yourself. Gratitude is a practice. It is a verb. It is an action. When you live it and when you do it, it actually can rewire your brain. Speaking from personal experience, it can rewire your personal relationships, not only with others, but with yourself. It upgrades your quality of life in ways that most people will never experience because they think gratitude is just an occasional feeling. But it isn't soft. It's not something that is, only practiced by, people that are trying to get in touch with their feminine or whatnot. It's not a Hallmark card. This is something that is a absolute game changer. And if you can learn how to do this yourself, the quality of life that you will experience is something that, people talk about when they talk about fulfillment, when they talk about happiness, when they talk about peace. And it's something that you can pass on to your children as well. So what I'm going to do is give you hopefully some practical applications on how to get this happening in your life and how to use it. So getting back to that topic of gratitude as a noun and not a verb, it's like saying, well, I have gratitude, but not actually practicing it. It's like saying I have muscles, but not really going to the gym and working out. Gratitude is no different than building strength. It takes reps. It takes practice. It's no different than building a strong body. If you want a strong mind and a strong life, then you need to practice it. And what I'm going to do is give you a practical story. I'm going to give you a story about what happened to me in my I think between in my 30s, for example. I think this is a time where a lot of people can relate. This is where you really sort of drive into your career and your vocation, and you really try to build yourself. Build your practice of making money and finding your foothold in the world. And what happens is when you lean into that, I think in a lot of cases you can get caught up in the doing of life, whether it's with work, whether it's even with family and with just going through the motions in a lot of cases. I know a lot of people can relate to this because life can get hectic. It can get busy. And when life gets hectic and busy, you can really get your head stuck way up your ass. And this is where I was, in my mid to late 30s. I was, in a place where gratitude was something that I did not practice. It did not occur to me that this would be something that would make a difference for me. It wasn't even on my radar. I heard people speak about it, and, it seemed like this happy clappy type of thing. But of course, in perfect, hard way fashion, I waited until a lot of things in my life were burning down, right? My business was mediocre, wasn't failing, but it was definitely, it was suboptimal. It was definitely a practice that I had trouble scaling because I'd built a practice based on my personality. I built basically a job for myself, and, I was going through the motions. My marriage was suffering. I was making bad decisions when it came to my relationships and my marriage, with trust. My body had broken down because I was leaning into exercise to try to, sedate those feelings. And I was really left in this empty spiritual place. And, I speak about this often, about how I found a men's group called Wake Up Warrior. And one of the most powerful tools that Warrior equipped me with was the practice of gratitude. Starting each morning, thinking about the things that you have in your life that I am incredibly blessed to have, such as my health, such as an incredible woman who loves me very much, who wants nothing more than for me to be as successful as possible. I have a beautiful daughter. I have a wonderful producing business with incredible employees. And I just have so many blessings in my life. And reframing every single day my mind to how blessed and grateful I am to have these things had just completely changed the way that I showed up that day, that week, that month, that quarter, that year. And the more and more I practiced this, the happier I became. I think the more enjoyable I became to be around. I was a better boss. I was a better husband. I was a better father. I was a better leader. When you practice this gratitude, right? This act of being grateful for the people in your life. And I started sending messages to people in my life, like my wife and my employees and other people in my life. It reciprocates. When people notice that you notice the hard work they do, or how much they contribute to your life, and they notice that you appreciate them, it's a very powerful, powerful place. So if you are in the practice of gratitude daily, whether, this could be as simple as like writing 3 things down that day that you're grateful for, or even just sitting there and really being, being present and thinking about things that you're incredibly grateful for. My wife supports and believes in me. My kids are healthy. My body is capable of, training and working out today. So, this will shift your physiology. This will shift your mindset. This will shift your life. So gratitude rewiring your brain. Let's talk about that. So there's actually a lot of great science behind this. If you look things up and look at studies, gratitude literally changes the structure and the chemistry of your brain. They measured dopamine and serotonin levels, those are the happy hormones, right? Dopamine's sort of like the quick hit, exhilarating hormone. The serotonin is sort of that like feeling of satisfaction and fulfillment. Those are the brain's feel-good chemicals. Gratitude it literally gives you those feel-good chemicals when you practice it. It actually has been shown to lower stress. When you shift your focus to things you are grateful for versus problems and things that are wrong, or things that need to be fixed, or things that are sideways. I'm not saying to have your head in the clouds. I'm not saying that you need to be like Pollyanna and happy clappy and artificially happy. So I'm saying that it's really easy. And guess what? We are physiologically wired to focus on problems. I just thought, I was like, fuck, I'm just like wired to be a negative person. My job requires me to like solve problems all day. I'm always looking for the problem, finding the problem, locating the problem, fixing the problem. I think men especially are like wired to like hyper focus on problems and fix them. But the reality is that it doesn't mean you have to stop finding and fixing problems. It just means you need to also spend some time thinking about the things that are great in your life, things that are positive, things you need to celebrate, things that you're just blessed to have. Your cortisol will go down if you practice this, which is one of your stress hormones. It's essential for life, but it's not essential to be pumping all the time. Your prefrontal cortex, which is the front side, the thinking side of your brain, the brain that helps you focus, regulate your emotions, right? Self-control, and make better decisions. This actually is, lights up like a Christmas tree on functional MRIs when they have people hooked up with electrodes and they have them practicing gratitude, in meditation and in silence, writing things down, right? Thinking about things they're grateful for. They can measure parts of your brain that light up when you are practicing this. And that's the area of the brain that is typically active. So gratitude isn't just about like helping yourself feel good. It's about rewiring your brain to have better performance, because who do you want to show up like? Do you want to show up like negative Nelly, angry and reactive? Or do you want to show up as like balanced and healthy and happy and celebratory and, level-headed? Of course, you want to be the latter, right? Those are better leaders, better people to be around, better friends, better fathers, better husbands, better wives. So here's the challenge. Your brain, as I mentioned, is built for survival, right? It's not built for happiness. And this is why a lot of people think like the pursuit of happiness is the purpose of your life. Well, I hate to tell you, but it's not. You're not even wired up to like seek happiness all the time. It means that you're biased towards negativity. You're biased towards finding and locating problems and, getting away from pain, right? So negative events are like, they stick like Velcro. It's very easy. If you notice, like you think back, it's very easy to recall the negative events in your life. It's very easy to recall things that have happened to you that were painful. It's harder to recall those positive and happy and healthy times. So the more you practice it, though, the more like the positive events, they get stickier, right? So I wrote down like gratitude is like the sandpaper that roughens up that Teflon, that helps make it stick. Studies show that people who practice gratitude, they actually sleep better. They have stronger immune systems and they're more optimistic about their future. So talk about better performance, right? Gratitude is a big piece of that. So think about that. The more of these podcasts I do, the more I realize that, man, all of the stuff that is the most important for you to practice is free. It's free. Gratitude is free. It doesn't cost you anything. And it's like it costs nothing. It takes less than 5 minutes and it creates measurable changes in your brain and your body. So again, just know that this isn't like fluff. This is like neuroscience. This is stuff that makes huge impacts. So let's talk about how gratitude strengthens relationships, right? So if you want deeper connections with your spouse, if you want deeper connections with your kids and your friends and your teams that you lead, gratitude is what I call the multiplier. So if you've noticed, like being critical isn't always received very well, right? Whether it's by your kids, your employees, your spouse. So it creates distance, and gratitude is the thing that creates closeness. There's a thing out there you've probably heard of, like a gratitude sandwich. Like, you talk about the positive or the negativity sandwich, right? So you talk to someone about a positive and you squeeze in, a negative, and then you end with a positive. So you create that sandwich. Those gratitude, those things, those messages of gratitude, those positive statements, those are always received much better, right, than a criticism or something negative. And this was something that I learned, practicing this 10 years in my marriage the wrong way. Being quick to criticize, being quick to judge, being quick to point something out that I didn't like. And those are like withdrawals, right? If you're just constantly withdrawing, whether you do this with your employees or you do this with your spouse or your kids, if you're always withdrawing from their accounts, in other words, pointing out negatives or criticizing, you're eventually going to be, go into the negatives. You're eventually going to become bankrupt unless you're making deposits. If you're making more deposits than withdrawals, then you're going to build up that account of trust and support and the willingness for that person to receive feedback. So the moment I realized that, right, I need to be verbalizing gratitude. I need to be practicing and showing gratitude. In my marriage, my wife, she likes me to be able to express gratitude by, showing her acts of service, right? Helping out, participating, right? Actions. And for some people, it's words of affirmation. They need that, verbal affirmation. For some people, it's, they want them to go out and show them they appreciate them by purchasing, gifts. Or it doesn't have to be a purchase. It could be like making something for them, making them a meal, showing them that you're thinking about them, right? Asking them where they need help. So like intimacy, whether it's with your spouse or intimacy with your children or, intimacy with your employees, right? So this changes when you show them gratitude, right? Your staff will work harder for you. Your wife will support and give you more slack when you need, more slack when things are intense at work, for example, or you're having a rough time, right? You'll have a lot longer leash. When others feel acknowledged. So it's not coincidence, right? This is chemistry. Gratitude releases oxytocin, actually, which is a bonding hormone, and it literally deepens trust and connection, right? This is well researched. So if you want better relationships, you want more intimacy, gratitude is the key, right? It's essential. So let's talk about using gratitude as a daily weapon. Right. So let's get tactical. Here's 3 ways. Number 1 is a morning practice. I alluded to this before, but you could either write down things that like specific things that you're grateful for in your life. Don't put something general, like the more specific, the better. So don't just say, oh, my family, my health, and my job. Be very intentional and specific, right? Take examples from the previous day. Just like, I am incredibly grateful for the intimate conversation my wife and I had yesterday about our daughter, right? And, her, the way we parent. It could be a specific, with a team member, just be like, oh, I'm incredibly grateful for this team member and the initiatives that they take in my business and how they treat it like it was their own. So try not to get too general, because the more specific you are, the more concrete it is, the more it will make an impact. Number 2 is in the moment, right? So if you practice gratitude in the moment when stress or negativity hits, so you can stop and pause, separate yourself from the emotion and start to think about one thing you're grateful for. It can interrupt the spiral. So if you find yourself spiraling, you're stressed out, 3 things have happened consecutively that have just sent your day sideways, right? Remove yourself, practice gratitude with either just, thinking about something that you're grateful for, or writing some things down. And number 3 I have is with others. So every single day, make it a habit to tell one person something you appreciate about them. And I guarantee you, if you do this, your relationships will change drastically. And remember this, the gratitude is not ignoring problems again. So it's not pretending that everything's like, Randy. It's just choosing the opportunity to see the blessings in your life, because it's very easy to just take things for granted. When you're so used to them, you're used to being married, you're used to being a dad, you're used to being a business owner, or you're used to showing up for your job, right? If you focus on what you're grateful for in those roles, right? It's like strength training. It builds a muscle. It trains your mental and emotional strength, and just watch how things change in your life, your attitude, how you show up, how others show up for you, right? So bringing this podcast home, I want to remind you that gratitude is not a noun. It's not something that just exists for the sake of you saying it does, right? It's a practice, and it does rewire your brain. It strengthens your relationships. So use this as a weapon, right? You have to use it though. So my challenge to you is in the next week, practice gratitude like it's a workout every single day, right? Write it, speak it, live it. What I've done in the past is I've literally just chose one person, my wife, for example. And every day I wrote her a message of gratitude, right? Every day I wrote about something that I'm grateful for when it came to my wife. And man, this changes everything. Okay. After a while, like you don't have to do this every day for a year. Like just pick a week and say, hey, babe, this week I'm just going to write you a note. You don't have to tell them. You just write them a note. It could be a text message, a video, a note, and just talk about the things that you are like genuinely grateful for about that person. You could pick one of your children and alternate kids. You could pick a team member on your team. It could be, another family member. It could be anybody, right? Pick somebody and, express your gratitude for that person. Watch how it affects you and your brain, your stress levels, and your relationships with those people. So just remember that gratitude it's not this fluffy, soft thing, right? It's not passive. It's one of the most overlooked performance enhancers in your life that you're probably not doing, that you're probably not using. I'm very guilty of slipping in and out of gratitude, right? And every time I go back to, if I think hard enough, like, hey, what do I need to be doing in order to get the wheels back on the track? Okay. Inevitably, it always comes back down to, I need to be more grateful for the people, place, and things in my life. So just make it a practice and weaponize this for yourself. So listen, if this episode hit you, if it made you think about someone that you want to practice gratitude with, coming up, like commit to it, start. And I'd love to hear feedback. I'd love to hear from you guys. So DM me, your results, DM me what you've noticed. And again, as always, I appreciate any reviews. I appreciate any of the shares you guys make. This podcast is starting to gain some traction, more and more listeners. So I strongly appreciate you guys. I'm very grateful for all of you that listen, that interact, that continue to support, this message and this mission. So, as always, strong body, strong mind, strong life. Stay weaponized. I'll see you guys next week.